So on today's podcast, we've got Holly Randall. Holly, I keep calling you, if I ever talk about you to any of my clients, the biggest porn director in the world, the biggest female porn director in the world. Can I say that?
Of course you can say that. You can say all kinds of things about me as long as they're nice.
Is that right? Would you say that?
Man, I don't know if... I wouldn't say I'm the biggest porn director in the world for sure, because there's definitely directors... Female, that is questionable. I mean, there's a lot of other female porn directors that, you know, are producing probably more movies per year than me. We can say I'm probably the most well-known female erotic photographer for sure, I would say, in the world. We could probably say that.
That's a bit of a mouthful.
I know. Well, you know me, I like mouthfuls. So.
Oh, yeah, so maybe...
Sorry, I had to get perverted right off the bat. I just had to break the ice.
So Holly's been on the podcast before, on an earlier one, maybe about a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe it was?
I feel like it was like at least 2 years ago.
So you're the first person to be on this podcast twice?
Oh,
no, she's not. Dan Pena.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then...
Well, he doesn't really count.
No.
You're the first person.
Okay, all right.
First female.
Perfect.
So Holly's just done a documentary on Netflix. It was called...
Hot Girls Wanted Turned On.
Hot Girls Wanted Turned On. And I watched that. I actually was lying in bed with my wife and I was like, oh, let's watch this Holly Randall documentary she was telling me about. And it's very interesting. And the thing what I was most interested in... Well, do you want to tell people first what it's about?
Sure, yeah. So Hot Girls Wanted Turned On is actually part of a 6-episode anthology, and it's a follow-up to the original Hot Girls Wanted, which came out about 2 years ago. And my episode specifically is about women in porn and female empowerment in porn. And all of the episodes are basically based around sex and technology. So some of them are about dating, some of them are about camming, all kinds of stuff. But my episode specifically is about female empowerment.
Right, and one thing it said in the episode that there's not many females doing what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Which really surprises me because, I mean, I'm not an expert of porn at all. I don't know much about it.
Mm-hmm. But don't believe anything.
Oh, come on.
So what's your browser history look like?
Deleted for some reason. So, I mean, I would have thought that working with females, because in porn it's all about the females, just about, right?
Yeah.
They would much prefer to work with a female like you than work with a guy.
I mean, yeah, I think I've definitely had that experience. I've had, you know, a lot of women who really like working with me because I'm a woman, especially if they're new to the industry and they're kind of nervous, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think it helps for them their first time to be with a woman. They feel more comfortable. But yeah, I don't really know why there aren't more women working in the adult industry. I think in general, you know, women don't embrace their sexuality in the way that men do. So I don't think it's an industry that most women look to go into, you know, especially behind the camera. A lot of women who end up in the adult industry, you know, end up in front of the camera because of their looks or, you know, their sexual prowess, but not a lot of them opt for a career behind the camera because it's not something that, you know, women just generally don't embrace sexuality really at all.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And on the documentary as well, let's go a little bit back in time for people who never heard the last podcast that you were on. Your mother, Susie Randall, was a legend in the industry.
Yes.
The first female to shoot for Playboy.
Well, she was actually the first female staff photographer for Playboy. The first female to actually shoot for Playboy was Bunny Yeager.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's how you got into it. I remember you telling me the story on the other podcast where you used to run about the house naked and all that, and like that. It was there all the time. Porn was there all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always knew what my parents did for a living. They never, there was never a moment when they sat down and they told me, but it wasn't something that was really a part of their personal life. You know, my family very much kept their career separate from their personal life. So though I knew what my parents did for a living, it wasn't significant to me when I was a child. You know, what was important to me as a child was, you know, running the Unicorn Club and, you know, spending time with my family. And, you know, I had a very normal childhood. So I think because my parents didn't treat sex as a strange and controversial and scary or bad thing. I didn't grow up thinking it was any of those things. So the fact that my parents worked in the adult industry was never like weird to me as a child, because, you know, normalcy is relative. Our experiences are shaped by how we grow up and what our parents teach us.
Yeah.
And so my parents didn't teach me that sex was shameful or sex was bad. So I guess it wasn't weird to me because I wasn't taught that it was weird.
Did you ever have friends that weren't like allowed to come over or anything like that? Like,
well,
anything
okay.
Like, I'm just curious. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely when I was younger, you know, because like I said, I've always known what they did for a living. I couldn't tell people really when I was, you know, like in elementary school, because, you know, it was not appropriate to discuss that with other children, and obviously, like, you know, their parents might have a problem with it. I remember specifically actually having a assignment in like the 4th grade or something like that, where we had to write about what our mom did for a living as an essay for school, and I remember being like, fuck, you know, and coming home with the assignment and being like, what am I gonna say? And, you know, my mother had done some mainstream photography as well. She actually shot for Robert Palmer, the musician, and she shot for like a swimsuit catalog. So we had some glamour jobs that she could allude to, and we just kept, you know, the adult stuff kind of on the down low. So
I think it sounds like it's kind of the way it should be with sex, because sex is a massive thing, right? Like I know for you it might not be, but from where I grew up, it was like my mum only ever slept with me dad. Do you know what I mean? From the age of 16, I think, even till now, like they've split up like 5. She's like 55. So it's like a big thing. You can't sleep with anyone. You can't sleep with anyone. But we've got like Aubrey Marcus, our friend, who's in an open relationship, and he was telling us like it's as long when you can get over that, that the mindset of it doesn't mean as much as people think it is. You know?
Right. Yeah. I think, you know, there's a lot of fear around sex, especially in America. But you know, sex is sex and love is love.
Yeah.
And there's lust, and then there's intimacy, and, you know, and they're two separate things. And, you know, sex doesn't have to be a scary thing. It can be a very empowering thing. It can be a very freeing thing. It's all in, you know, how you approach it.
Right. Do you think, boys, like that would be a better mindset to have if it wasn't a big deal? If you could sleep around and life would be better?
No, definitely not.
Why?
Because I think there's certain things in life that need to be like special and exciting and kept to one side to keep them that way. I think if it just becomes normal, like eating and breathing and cleaning your teeth, then it just loses that appeal. I feel like the things that are exciting because you can't do them as normal and regularly as, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I know what you mean.
I think it's very much a culture thing. I mean, I come from a very small town, Kentucky. It's a very far-right Christian conservative place, and you know, if some of them see me on here now, right now, talking to you, they're gonna be like, "Oh my God," you know. But it's a little ridiculous. It's that people get that wrapped up in. I mean, we are very much. I guess it depends on your beliefs. I think we're very much animals, and we need that to feel complete and feel whole as people, as humans, as animals. But they don't think of it that way. They think of it very much more kind of similar to what Glenn's saying. Now, do I think it's right to go run around and sleep with everybody and be in open relationships? No, it's not for me. I'm not going to judge you if that's what you want to do. But
yeah, I think it's different for everybody. You know, I mean, my parents had an open relationship growing up, and I don't. That's something that I've kind of always wanted, because it sounds like it would be great, but I don't really think that I could do it. You know, I mean, the thought of my boyfriend having sex with another girl makes me want to claw her eyes out. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, it doesn't work for me, and I think it's different for everybody. And Kevin, yeah, you're right. I mean, sex, we are animals, you know, and sex is one of our biggest drives in life, like sex and food, you know. Those are like the two things that we were created to procreate, but we are also humans. So, you know, we've evolved that sex, there's sex and then there's love, you know. And some people can separate the two and some people can't, and you know, it's just a personal preference, and that's why love and intimacy is different for everybody.
Yeah, sex, like you say, that's spot on. Sex and love are two different things, but when you know that your missus have had sex with this many guys, it does your fucking head in. Like, not saying Mrs. a slag out like that, but you know what I mean? She's had boyfriends in the past, and that like, what I was trying to say, rather than the open relationship route was like, if it wasn't a big deal that your partner in the past has slept with this many people, where we from, and especially you, Kev, it's a big deal. You're not going to start sleeping or marrying a woman who's slept with 20 guys or 30 guys or
Right.
more, you know.
You might fit in where I'm from then, because I know people my age back home that are still virgins. So if you go back home and find a girl that's never slept with anybody, maybe that'd be good. I mean, you don't need that.
Oh, wait a minute.
You know what I'm saying, though. I mean, if you were, you can't get too caught up on people's past. I don't think.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it'll mess you up a little bit. But if you go and find someone that's a virgin, you have to worry about their past.
See, it's so funny because I'm the opposite, actually. I want to date a guy who's fucked a bunch of chicks because I want him to know what he's doing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like with my boyfriend, with the guy that I'm currently dating, it took me forever to try to get out of him how many girls he'd slept with because he didn't want to tell me because I think he thought that I would be upset. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I am hoping that you've slept with a lot of women. It was, I don't want to say, but it was a lot. It was a lot. But as opposed to my ex-husband where I remember when he told me he'd only slept with 7 women, I was like, fuck. I was like, oh no, this is not good.
You're going to be terrible.
And he was like, I know. And he was like, how many people have you slept with? I'm like, a lot more than that.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think
that's a result for him, though, isn't it?
Right, exactly. Because I've been trained, It's like boxing. It's like you got to practice in order to become good at it.
But is it though? I don't know. I love Holly, but I'm not going to be marrying you because of if you tell
well,
it.
then fuck it, I'm out of here.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'm from, it's if the girls smash that many guys, it's like, fuck, can I go with her? She's a whore.
Yeah.
You know, that's. But what I'm seeing is that's the mindset that if I could pick, I would not have.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, again, our experiences shape who we are as people. And that's the way you feel, and that's fine. Now your opinions can always change. I mean,
right.
You're in charge of how you feel about things. But I think that it's fair. I mean, this is why this is the human condition. We are all different people, and that's why your wife is the one for you, and my guy is the one for me, and
right.
that's fine, and that's.
It's interesting when you said about you're in control of your opinions and what you think, because going back to what Aubrey, having a conversation with him a few months ago, and he said, we were trying to get our heads around how do you not get pissed off when you know your girlfriend's sleeping with somebody else? And he turned it around and said, well, when she's sleeping with a guy, he's not doing any harm, he's actually giving her pleasure, so why would I see that as a negative thing?
That's a great way to look at it.
And I was like, well, that's a pretty compelling argument.
It
but
makes sense.
It does make sense, but I just don't think it's instinctive to think like that. You've kind of got to train your brain and rewire yourself, like you said, and control your opinions to think that.
I wouldn't say it's instinctive. I think
it's definitely not instinctive.
We've been wired, it's our culture that has made us think that way. But we can restructure those thoughts in the way we think in our head.
Definitely,
it takes some time and a lot of effort, I'm sure.
I think it also too,
we have
to remember too,
that thought process.
that you also have to consider too, what does that say about you?
Right.
Why does that worry you? Why do you care what she did in her past? Why does the person that she was? Because the person that she was in her past made her who she is today. And if you love her today, why are you going to fault her for her past? And why does that upset you? Do you have certain insecurities about yourself and your sexuality, and you're projecting that onto her?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right?
That's totally right. That's totally right. And what Aubrey said as well, he said it did take time and it did take effort to put in.
Yeah.
So you're like, what the fuck? But when you think about it, it's like he's the bigger man.
Yeah.
So he can get his head around that. He doesn't let that shit bother him. Do you know what I mean?
I think the biggest concern is he going to be better than me? I think that's a big
fear. And
I
said that to him.
Yeah. That's what I said. You said, yeah.
I said to him, what if he's better than you? He went, no chance. It's like, nice. Right. Aubrey must be a stud in bed.
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, he's a sexually liberated individual, and I think that is part of what makes somebody, good in bed, because, so many times we're caught up in, all of our insecurities and all of those things that we worry about, how our body looks or how big our dick is or how big our boobs are or something like that. And sex should be that one time in your life when you can just let all that stuff go. And you can just release all of that, which is like kind of why like for me with sex, like I like to be dominated, because like in my regular life, I'm pretty dominant and I'm in charge and I'm a boss and I run a business. And so like when it comes to sex, like I like to flip the switch and be the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So
there's another thing, like where the way you've been brought up, telling us what you like in sex. Like us three, like we don't really talk open about that, but because the way you've been brought up, which I kind of think it's a better way to be. Do you not think that?
To be more open about it.
Yeah, like so Ollie doesn't give a shit.
It's funny, actually, if you listen to the podcast that I just did with my parents a couple of weeks ago, they openly talked with me about sex. And about, and my mom told me that actually, I didn't know this. And I knew that my parents were swingers when they were younger. And when my mom worked at Playboy and they would party at the Playboy Mansion, they would have sex with different people and they would go to orgy parties and stuff like that. And I remember my mom told me that she was like on a mission when she was at the Playboy Mansion to like fuck more people than like the guys did. She was like a competition. And I was just like, man, you're my hero. Like that is so cool.
So, when did you first start having conversations with your parents about sex?
Well, it's funny, actually. We didn't really talk about sex when I was younger.
It wasn't really talked about.
No, I
you
don't
think that was a deliberate thing on their part?
I don't know. I think my parents felt kind of uncomfortable discussing sex with their children.
So it's just kind of, they let you kind of just figure that stuff out yourself, like most.
Yeah. And then when I became older, they were more comfortable talking about it. But I don't talk to my parents about like my specific sexual exploits. Like I don't come home and be like, oh my God, Mom, fuck this guy and it was so great and we did this and we did that. You know what I mean? She's like, I don't really want, and I don't necessarily want to hear about details either. But totally. Like, we're sexually liberated people and, we enjoy sex, but we don't specifically talk about details because they're my parents and I'm their daughter. And it doesn't matter, like, what you do for a living. Nobody wants to listen to their children tell them about sex. That's just like kind of a biologically unnatural thing, I
think that goes for, in general, I think people care a lot more than they do about what people do in bed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really give a shit.
Interesting, isn't it?
It's interesting, but like, I don't really care if someone wants to come and tell me about it.
I've got two daughters.
Private life, innit?
And the last thing I want my daughters, the last thing I can fucking think about is my daughters growing up and having sex with people. How was your dad when he found out you've had this boyfriend? Was he ever protective? Not at all.
My dad doesn't give a fucking shit. My dad was like less protected than my mom was. He was just, like as long as like I was safe, he really didn't care. And honestly, to be the kind of man who could marry my mom, you have to be very, very sexually confident, and you have to have like not a jealous bone in your body, right. And you have to be very much like kind of blasé about that sort of thing.
Again, that's another thing. What's a mental block for me, which it's all on the person. Where if my mind was stronger, maybe I wouldn't be bothered about that stuff.
I don't know about that. I mean, they grew up in a different time and a different culture. They grew up in London in like the swinging 60s and the 70s when everybody was having sex with each other. It was a time of free love. It was before AIDS came along. It was before all the STDs came along, and you could have sex with lots of people and not contract something and bring it home. And so it was just, and it was a time where like the world was changing and society was changing, and it was just, and everybody had a different mindset. And I just think that, we are, our experiences, and they just had a different experience than you guys did or that I did.
Yeah. So back to the documentary, when I was watching it, and an interview from your mom, she said that she would like you to get out of the industry.
Yeah, and that's not because of porn specifically, but she just sees the way that the industry has changed and how difficult it has become to make a living and how much I struggle and how hard I work and, how frustrated I become with the budgets that I have to deal with and, how I'm asked to do more and more and more for less money. So that's the only reason that she wants me to get out. It's not the content itself. She just wants to see me feeling creatively fulfilled and feeling financially stable and not so stressed out all the time.
I think that's a good segue into your podcast too. That's a perfect example. Just getting outside of your bubble a little bit and expanding with new projects and stuff.
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
do you think the industry is going where where it's going. Like just because it's so
nobody pays
it's
for
all free,
porn
right?
anymore. I'm gonna write a song about that because everything's free. You know, everything's free on the internet, and nobody pays for porn.
Where's
the money coming from that I'm gonna make it? You know what I mean?
Are they going to be able to regulate that at any point, though, or no?
I have no idea. I fucking hope so, but I don't know.
Sure.
So, where's the money then? If everything's free, how can you make any money?
I don't know.
Well, come on.
That's a great question.
Paying for a membership at Box of Air, you must be doing something right.
I know, right? You know, I mean, there's less work now, and luckily, you know, I'm at a point in my career where, you know, I'm pretty high profile, and so I'm still getting hired and I'm still getting jobs. But you know, it's a lot of people have kind of flunked out of the industry. A lot of people have lost their jobs. It's shrunk a lot. So I mean, there's still obviously people who pay for porn because otherwise there would be nothing. But it's much more difficult to get those people to pay for porn because there's a very small percentage of people that are going to pay for porn, right? But the thing is that there's so many people who watch porn, even if like 2% of people pay for porn, that's still a lot of people.
Right.
And so if you can capture that audience with good product and with proper branding and traffic, then you can still make a living. It's just not what it once was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I watched the show about how much effort actually goes into making a porn, like the one that you were doing where it was outside in the woods and you had all the crew there.
God.
She was wearing a metal.
That was okay. That was literally like the worst shooting day of the year that they covered. I was shooting this big feature movie for Digital Playground called Quest, and it was like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of based story. And so it was like medieval costuming and sword play. And I shot Jada Stevens and Derek Pierce that day, and it was so hot out. It was like 110, and we were shooting outside, and Jada had to wear chainmail with this heavy, like, woolen cloak, like knee-high stiletto boots, and she had to do a sword fighting scene with Derek in, like, wood chips, you know, so, like, uneven ground, and she'd, like, never done sword fighting before, so we had to give her, like, a quick, like, 20-minute training session. So she had to do that, and then they had to have sex in the sun with their costumes still on, because if they take the costumes off, then it's like it's not part of the cosplay anymore. And it was just like miserable. It was just one of those days where like it was so brutal. And I got to give like huge props to Jada and Derek, because I don't know how they did that scene, because I was just sitting in my director's chair in the shade and I was dying.
Is all of that stuff necessary? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It must be, because like my clients keep asking me to do it. I mean, personally, when I watch porn, which is pretty much never, I mean, I fast forward through the storyline like everybody else does, but somebody must watch it. Somebody must like it, because otherwise we wouldn't be shooting that. I mean, you know, there is like a big, like kind of nerd factor of guys who love those parodies and those, you know, like cosplay type movies. So there is an audience out there for it, for sure. But it's just not anybody here at this table. That's all.
He's like, yeah, whatever. So you said that the budgets have now changed a lot. What were the budgets and what are they now? Can we talk about that?
God, you know, it's hard to say, because it just depends. I don't know. I only recently started shooting feature movies like a couple of years ago, because I was a photographer pretty much mostly for most of my career, and then I started shooting video because I had to. So by comparison, though, I can say like we used to just shoot one photo set a day, right? And that was it. That was all we had to do all day. And now I have to shoot 4 photo sets and 4 videos in a day.
To make the same money?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not even to make the same money, to make less money.
Wow. That's mad.
It's interesting to me that, and this is not a knock to you, but like that photos are still a thing. I remember I was a kid, my brothers would bring home those little floppy disks, and we'd have like little pictures of like, oh my gosh. But like people still like are into the photos.
Well, that's the problem though. They're not really much of a thing. So that's why I had to teach myself video when I saw, you know, because when the internet first started, the download speeds were so slow that like it would still take you like 10 minutes to download one picture. So photos did really, really well on the internet, which is why my parents did so well at the beginning, because my mom had a huge photo library from, you know, like the 20 years that she had been shooting. But then as bandwidth got better and technology got better and you could start to stream video, it started to move that way. So now my job is a lot more shooting videos with pictures to go along with it, as opposed to shooting pictures with some videos. So it's definitely reversed itself. So I'm definitely doing more film directing than I am doing photography, though in my heart, I'm still a photographer.
Right.
Can you remember on holiday, you two will probably not remember, or you might, when you'd go on holiday and there was them playing cards with porn pictures on them?
Remember, I went to a trip in like second year, I think, in Italy. And there was a shop, like, you know, them little tourist shops that you can go into.
Yeah, that's where you got
like
them
playing
from.
cards and stuff.
Do you know playing
and
cards?
they'd have like topless girls on the back of the deck of cards and all that. So we all just bought like loads of them.
But
I don't think we had those here in America.
Each picture had them.
But no,
Yeah.
like it wasn't like a big
Each
thing,
card
I
had a
think.
different
Or
picture
those
on.
the funny ones with the pens. Remember the pens? And they were like at the end of the pen.
Oh, wait.
And you pressed it in, and there'd be a nude girl at the end of it. Did you
Oh,
ever have
okay.
those? No.
We had pens that I thought like
No,
she would have a bikini on, and then you would like shake it.
Oh,
and then, like,
yeah,
her
I
bikini
remember
would
them as well.
disappear.
We never had those in England
just
though.
too young,
They
I
were
guess.
always in like in Spain or
Yeah,
like,
all the way in Spain.
Yeah.
And then there was the little key rings where it was a man and a woman bent over, and you'd move like that.
Yeah.
Remember them?
No, Kevin and I were like,
do
we have
remember
no
that.
idea what you're talking about.
Me and Tony
We
just
have
getting
better taste in the
nostalgic
States,
now.
I think.
These are just some European shit.
Yeah.
So last time you were on, and we spoke a little bit about before, we thought that the industry was going to the virtual reality stuff, and you haven't done much with it since then, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I'm just like on that fucking hamster wheel, just trying to like, you know, make a living day to day. So it's been hard to branch off and do other projects. And I talked to a couple of people about virtual reality, but you know, the technology is still evolving, and I just feel like it's not really there yet. And I still haven't like had time to wrap myself around it. And I think that it is going there, and it's something I definitely want to get into. But I'm trying at this point in my life not to overload myself with too many projects and try to do too much stuff at once, because I'm starting to make myself a little bit crazy.
Right.
So I'm just trying to like, you know, focus on what I'm doing now and, you know, maybe the next step, and not try to like project too far into the future. And I think when, you know, I'm ready to shoot virtual reality, you know, that opportunity will present itself.
That, I think, will 100% ruin sex. Virtual reality porn, right?
Why do you think it'll ruin it as opposed to make it better?
Because let's see it. I bet you
ruin sex lives and relationships.
Yeah. But let's see. There's a 18-year-old virgin or whatever, one of these guys from Kentucky when they're like 45-year-old.
I'm not going to have many friends like that.
But let's see that. But now they've got this thing where they put it on the face like this, right? And they've got the mask, and then they're there in a room with a bird, like
Get
a
that look off your face.
He's getting into this.
I'm getting into it. I'm twitching. Where she's a 10 out of 10. Yeah. And he's giving her the best time of her life, and she's just got the perfect body. She hasn't got a blemish on her face. She's just perfect, right? Now, and he's lasting for a long time, and he's just fucking performing.
Yeah.
And now that going into the real world, where maybe for Holly, but for everyone else, that's not real, right? Maybe for Holly it is real.
No, I definitely, I totally hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, and it does concern me. I mean,
But
for example, of just what social media has done to us in society
Social life, right.
recently, in social life. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I was talking to somebody the other day who was saying that, you know, like, there is so much more like depression in teenagers and suicide and stuff like that, because people are going on social media and seeing like other people's Instagram, you know, where we all put up like this facade that we have this amazing life, and they're comparing themselves to other people and thinking like, my life should be like that, I should be like that, you know, and none of it is real. And we're not educating our children to believe that. We're just letting like the computers teach them, and that is super unhealthy. So I agree with you. It is concerning to me what virtual reality is going to do to sex and to intimacy, and not even just in porn. Just think about like all the other things that you can do with virtual reality. You know, like
just communication,
playing games, all that kind of stuff. And it is.
Well, we all agree that sex is a big part of life, and like you said earlier on, it's a lot to do with confidence. Where this virtual reality porn is, I think it's just going to ruin men's confidence, or boys, young boys' confidence, and girls. You know, because girls,
it could actually give them confidence, though, Because they think it's real.
think
and
they're a
sitting there
beast.
doing it. They're like, oh wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Now I got to go do the real thing. Because nothing will ever replace the real thing.
Yeah.
I don't think, but it could go the other way too.
Glenn, is this the first time ever I'd Kev talk about sex?
I think it might be.
Pretty private person.
Kev's a private person.
But I think you could argue, if you rewind a few decades, you could argue that porn, when it first came out, I'm sure there were people that might have said that porn would ruin relationships.
But I feel
Because
like
there's when you consume porn, I listened to a podcast about this recently, and they were talking about the adrenaline release and the hormone release that you get from watching porn, and then you can get desensitized to the real thing from consuming too much porn. So then when you do have sex with somebody, it's kind of it might feel like a letdown because you're used to getting everything that you want from porn, right? Yeah. So then it can affect your relationship that way. I think with the virtual reality thing, it's just kind of going to be the next format of porn, really. I don't think it's going to do too much to affect relationships. I just think it's just another format that's going to come out probably the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, the thing is that we never know, you know? I mean, we always sit here and we always like project about like what the future is going to be like and how human beings are going to respond to this. And, you know, I mean, when television first came out, like society thought that was going to ruin society. I mean, I don't know, maybe arguably it has. But, you know, I mean, humans are resilient. And I feel like we always kind of sort of figure out a way, you know what I mean? And we do, and we do crave intimacy, real intimacy.
Yeah. Totally.
And hopefully, you know, that will, you know, prevail in the end. But it's hard to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what you said there about the society thing, it's so true, isn't it? And Kev, you said as well, but what did you say about the virtual reality, like the communication? Mm-hmm. You can see now it's going down, and there's a video, I've mentioned this before on a podcast, that's called Look Up on YouTube. Have you seen it?
No.
Did I talk about this on the show before? So the video is, it shows you this guy, he's walking down the street and he's got a piece of paper in his hand, he's looking for the address and he can't find it.
You told me about this.
Yeah, and he can't find where this street is. And there's a lady walking past and he's like, excuse me, love, do you know where the street is? And she says, oh, yeah, come on, walk with me. So he's walking with her. Anyway, fast forward, then he's on his first date with her. Fast forward, now he's standing outside of their house. They've just bought a house together, the couple. Fast forward, now he's had his first kid. Fast forward again, the kid's graduated. Fast forward again, she's in bed dying, he's holding her hand, and they've got all these great memories. She dies, but then it rewinds and goes back to the beginning, right? This video is quality. And then the woman's walking past. He's back to where he was with a piece of paper, but now he's got his phone in his hand and he's like this. And the woman just walks straight past him. And
he's swiping on Tinder.
Yeah. but it just shows there he's missed that opportunity of all them great memories and all that great time.
It's true.
You know, because of being on this thing here.
Yeah. I know, and it's an addiction, you know, and it's something that I've kind of noticed myself recently, you know, that like it's like default to pick up your phone and like look at it all the time and like look at social media and how many people liked this on Instagram and how many people like that, and it's just like it's almost kind of becoming a sickness, and you look around and everybody's on their phones all the time, and I don't know, I'm trying to kind of consciously pull myself out of it, but then, you know, of course I tell myself, oh, well, I'm doing it for work. I'm doing it for branding, you know. I mean, we can find an excuse for anything. But
I think if you treat it like that, that's a healthy relationship. If you treat it for work and use it for benefit.
If it is used for benefit, but I think what Holly's saying is like she tells yourself that as an excuse, right? Or not? I do that as well.
Absolutely. But also too, like work for me is also an addiction also. So it like feeds into it like that double way.
A big
you know?
part of everyone's work now is social media. But we become conditioned to be rewarded every time we pick up the phone, whether someone's texted us or liked our picture.
Yeah.
The little numbers
we're
with the red
conditioned now
heart.
to think of this as reward.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's why it's addictive, right?
An example just from last week, I went into the staff room in the back. I was in there by myself on my laptop. And within 5 minutes, I think 3 or 4 of the trainers came into the room and all sat down. And I looked up, and every single one of them was just sat on their phone, and nobody was talking to anyone. And there was, I think, 4 or 5 of us in the room. And I looked around, and I was like, shit, everyone's just like this.
Yeah.
So I closed my laptop, I put my phone down, and I started a conversation with one of them. And then I thought, like what you said, you try and pull yourself out of it, like conscious effort.
See, and
like, this is not right. This is weird.
You know what this is? This is the human condition prevailing. This is our evolution.
Yeah.
Literally, that is evolution. That because I think the fact that we're talking about this right now and that we're recognizing this shows that we are seeing that as an issue, and that we are seeing that there's something that we need to do about it, and we are craving coming back to intimacy and having conversations with each other once again. So I would like to have faith in the human race and think that
so,
we're going to come back around and we're going to reconnect.
But there's also a lot of great things it's done as well. Like we can communicate with our families and our friends back home and keep in touch a lot better now, just because we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and those people that run these companies, they're aware of that, and they're aware of like the conditions that are going to come with this, and I think they'll strategically try to work around it. And I have faith that they're good people, and they want the best for society. So they're, again, there's a lot of downsides to it, but I think there's a lot of upsides to it too.
Yeah, here's a perfect example, like the bombing that just happened in Manchester,
Right.
Which is a horrible thing. Before I came here, I was watching the Ariana Grande benefit concert live on Facebook, and and it was like, she had this huge thing behind, like text, this to donate £5 to the families affected.
Yeah.
So there we are using social media and technology to reach out and to help each other and to lift each other up and to benefit each other. So it's definitely a double-edged sword.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's definitely doing more good than harm. It 100% is. I've got into a habit now of walking through restaurants and looking to see what people's doing on the phone. I'll walk through and I'll see like a man and a woman on his phone. I'm looking over the shoulders just to see, just to shake me head.
Good thing I was in. What's really funny? I was actually in I was at a beauty spa the other day, and there was a guy next to me who was paying for his Botox, and while he was doing that, he was swiping through Tinder, and I was just standing next to him, just like laughing, thinking, "Oh my God, this is so."
What
LA.
about this? I tweeted about this as well. I'm on an aeroplane. Do you know when they turn the lights off on the aeroplane? I can't remember where I was flying. And I've got my iPad and I'm on Twitter and I scroll through and Holly's feed's on there and there's just a big dick and just a big pair of tits.
I have warned everybody that my Twitter feed is very dangerous. Hey, my Instagram is PG.
No,
do you want to talk about
It's funny when you're sitting there on a plane, and there's Holly's picture and there's just a girl in the bed, whatever. You're kind of like...
on the airplane, it was black and I was on an aisle seat as well, so everyone behind just seeing a big dick. Just, oh, no.
Do you want to talk about your Snapchat account, since we've been talking? You mentioned it before about... Did they...
I can't believe they've done that. Holly was just telling us about Snapchat.
So I had a Snapchat account, Holly Randall, and Snapchat used to be okay with nudity and porn and all of that, and so I used to show like BTS clips and stuff from my shoots, and I had like 40,000 followers, and then Snapchat just deleted me. Like that. And
probably
so
because 30,000 of them were under 12, maybe.
Well, so now, I've recreated a new Snapchat account, Holly Randall 78, and I don't show any nudity on there anymore, but I have a private Snapchat account, which I do show nudity, but you have to pay for it. So.
Oh, no, I didn't know you had to pay on Snapchat.
Well, you don't have to pay for it, but
really?
I do it through a third-party service where people pay a monthly basis, and then I add them to my private account.
Right.
So.
That's good. I can't, I was telling Holly, I can't believe that Snapchat would do that because that company's kind of went right down the pipe.
It was a huge liability. Have you been watching Silicon Valley or no recently?
No.
So they created like this video chat and it was huge, and they went to sell it, but they sold it knowing it was going to be huge, and they knew that it was going to be like wildly successful, and they found out that 90% of their users were like under the age of 14 or 15, and it's a huge exposure to like lawsuit. So they went and sold it knowing this, and this company bought it, and they're like, now you got to deal with it. But I think just with social media, how do you regulate the age? So there's a big exposure of risk there.
Yeah, I feel like there should be some way that when you sign up for social media, you have to in some way prove your identity and your age, and then depending on that, you're allowed into certain platforms or not. So
or see if there's going to be adult content on there, right? Because when you do a podcast, like this podcast's got adult content, so if it never, this podcast will probably get shut down, because we swear and you're talking about big dicks and that. So
that's only you, I think. You're the only one that said it.
I'm on with the obsession with big dicks and that. Holly, what's the future for you now? You've done this documentary.
Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic
question. Your mum wants you to quit and become a vet. Is that what you said?
No, she wanted me to become a sex therapist.
A sex therapist. Would that be something that you would do?
Well, I mean, I think my mom thinks that I should do more public speaking engagements and stuff like that. She thinks that I speak well on camera and that I'm a good personality and that I should try to promote myself in that way. So I am trying to work more on building my own brand and, working less for clients and creating more of my own thing. But I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm kind of taking it day by day. I'm starting a podcast, Holly Randall Unfiltered, which you guys know about. So I'm hoping that will do something. But, I've been kind of going through this like existential crisis lately, actually, where I've been trying to figure out not necessarily what I'm going to do with my career, but like what makes me happy. Because I think honestly watching the Hot Girls Wanted documentary kind of almost was a weird wake-up call for me because, I mean, obviously I knew like in my head that, I was struggling with work and I was struggling with these lower budgets and, I was becoming more and more frustrated with my career. But I think seeing myself on television next to Erica Lust, and I'm just going through the motions and doing the work and like complaining about it, where, Erica's out there like trying to make a difference, and she's trying to create porn that is different and revolutionary, and she's inspired, and she goes to work with a purpose. And I was just watching it thinking, fuck, and it made me realize like I've kind of lost my way, and I used to love my job so much, and I used to wake up in the morning excited to go to work, and I couldn't wait. And now I'm just like, and I kind of don't really feel that way anymore. So now I'm starting to think, okay, like, what do I want in life? Because if 10 years ago, if you had told me, you're going to have a nice house and you're going to have this car and you're going to have a great boyfriend and you're going to be shooting for Playboy and you're going to be making this much and you're going to be boxing and, like all these things, I would have been like, oh my God, my life is going to be so great. I'm going to be so happy when I get to that point. Right. Yeah. And like, now I'm at that point and I'm like, not really happy. So then I'm starting to think, okay, like, what makes me happy? Because it almost seems like no matter how much I achieve, it's never enough, you know? And that's kind of part of what makes me good at my job. And I think you guys can probably relate as 100%. Entrepreneurs is that like you're always pushing and you're always, trying to get to the next level because that's the personality that you have. But then when you get to that next level, it's not enough. You want to go to the next level, which is what makes you good at what you do. Right. Yeah. And that's what makes Box and Burn great. But then you have to sit back and say, okay, well, fantastic. From a career standpoint, that's great. But like as a human being, like how do I feel? Like how do I feel in my heart? Like what makes me happy? Is it the car? Is it like how much I weigh? Is it like my hair? Is it my social media account? Is it who am I? And I am not like what people think of me. I am something more than that, and that's something that. I've been kind of like going through lately, and it's been a weird process, but I think it's been good. There's been some emotional growth going on. So, I guess my short answer to your question is I don't fucking know. And I'm just kind of like trying to take every day, take it day by day and just, I just feel like if I just do the next indicated action and I do the next right thing and, I have gratitude for the things that I have in my life and, I'm good to the people that I work with and, that it's something is going to come along, because we are what we project into
good
our
things
life.
Happen to good people.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
If money wasn't a problem.
I'll come work here, actually.
We're hiring.
July 9th, Box and Burn certified. Come and do it. If money wasn't a problem, you didn't have to worry about all the money in the world, right? What would you do when you woke up in the morning?
I would be a photographer. And I would be like...
So that's your passion?
Yes. Like I would be able to do art, and probably still women, actually, yeah, definitely still. I love shooting nude women. Like that is my thing. I love shooting people. But that's what I would love to do. I would love to, I really
well, you're doing that, aren't you?
I am, but not really. I'm shooting like porn,
Right.
And I'm shooting, scenes where, like a stepmom busts her stepdaughter for eating her apple pie and then like punishes her with sex, It's just like, I mean, like this is kind of the same shit all over again because porn just is always kind of the same.
Right.
And, I don't feel creatively fulfilled. I don't feel creatively challenged. And, so So that's what I would like to get back to. And actually, yesterday, I had one of those shoots. I shot for Burn TV, which is an up-and-coming network, a lifestyle network about the cannabis industry. And we did this thing, which is going to be called like the portraits, or like what is Burn TV? And so it was a series of black and white portraits of people who use cannabis in their day-to-day life. So I shot, chefs. I shot a mother who uses cannabis to deal with postpartum depression. I shot an NBA player, John Sally. I shot Eddie Bravo, MMA fighter. All of these people who use cannabis in their life to deal with whatever they need it for, and that whole culture. And it was really great to work with kind of normal people and shoot like these really beautiful, like powerful black and white portraits of like everyday people. And it was just such a different experience, and everybody was so great and like so grateful and so excited to work with me and so excited to have like professional photos done. And there was a real connection, with my subjects, and I just had a really great time. So, different opportunities are coming up, and I'm just kind of like going with the flow and just,
I've got a great business idea for you. I'll tell you off camera. It's just come to me a day. I've got a great business idea. But I think it's fucking great. I want a percentage. I'll tell you after this.
Okay.
But I think a big thing in the industry now, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, is the cam girls.
Yeah, camming is definitely a big thing now because, that, first of all, you can't steal live camming, right? So that kind of circumvents the whole problem with piracy.
Camming. Never heard that.
Yeah, you haven't?
I've never heard of camming. No.
Really?
No, I didn't know it was a verb.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a term.
You're so innocent. It's that connection. Here we are talking about human connection again. It's these girls connecting directly with their viewers. And so it's actually been great, wonderfully empowering for the models because now they can connect directly with their fans, as opposed to having to shoot a porn for a company. They get a day rate and then they go home, that's all they get. And then that company makes the residuals off that porn and sells it to the consumers. So it's been really empowering for the girls, but it's not something that, I could ever get into because I don't get naked and masturbate on camera, and there isn't really a place for a professional producer in that area.
I think there is. There's not.
Well, I think the appeal of it is kind of the amateurish quality of the one-on-one interaction. Right.
I want to talk to you after this because my fucking mind's blasting now about these different ideas I've got for you. But so I don't want to tell it on here. So I think what we're going to do now is finish the podcast. But Holly, if people want to find you, where can they find you? Oh, wait, tell about your podcast first. When's that new podcast coming out?
So my podcast is called Holly Randall Unfiltered, and I'm going to shoot probably like 6, 8, or 10 episodes. We'll see, and then I'm going to release it like on a weekly basis and just kind of sit back and see how it does. Right. Because I just don't want to get myself into a situation where like I force myself to shoot on a weekly basis and with a limited amount of time that I have. And stress myself out. So I just want to do a whole big bunch of them, release them, and then just kind of see how it does. And hopefully it'll do well and I'll do more. But, it's just one of those things. I'm just throwing a million things at the wall and just seeing what sticks.
Yeah,
so.
I think that'll definitely stick because you've got a huge following on all your social media and people's interest in this stuff.
And I definitely, and I'm luckily I have access to, like the biggest people in the industry. I've already interviewed Lisa Ann, my parents, obviously, Bailey Rain, and, I've got a couple other people lined up. So
nice. And if people want to find you on social media,
you can find me on Instagram at Holly Randall, also on Twitter at Holly Randall, on Snapchat at Holly Randall 78. And on Facebook, though I'm really terrible at keeping up my Facebook page. But Holly Randall on Facebook.
And if you are following Holly Randall on Twitter, don't open it up on an airplane. Bad idea.
Unless you're sitting in the very back row or in the bathroom.
Yeah, in the bathroom. All right, Holly, well, thank you for coming on the Boxing Life podcast.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks for coming on.
Until next time, we'll see you there.
Thanks, guys.